to Just Thinking. This is Mary Greendale. The title of this show grew out of a lifetime of curiosity about many different subjects. Some local, some global, and some in between. For each show, I will open with my thoughts and then bring on guests to explore the subject in greater detail. I hope the show inspires healthy discussions on camera and among viewers. To me, the sky's the limit when we are just thinking. Hi there, welcome to Just Thinking. I'm glad to have two guests with me here today talking about Habitat for Humanity in Holliston. And this is a project that Holliston has talked about for many, many years. So this is kind of an exciting time for us. And let me start just by introducing the two fellas. This is Tim Friment, and we have Todd Barber, who you may have seen last week on Holliston, Heartbeat of Holliston. We interviewed him for that. But thanks for joining us. I'm going to ask you, Tim, if you just start off and tell me, who you are, what brought you to Habitat, and then kind of what your role is.
Yeah. My name's Tim Friment. I'm the executive director. Our Habitat's one of 17 affiliates throughout the state. We cover Metro West, Greater Worcester, and pretty much Central Mass, 42 communities. So far, we've built 40 plus houses. So we build houses for families in need, first-time homeowners that need shelter. And we also do what's called critical home repair, keeping people in their homes as well. And then we do other ventures such as a Brush with Kindness to do cosmetic upgrades. So we're always within the community addressing shelter. We are located out of Worcester, and I got involved with Habitat 3+ years ago. Came from a nonprofit Fruitlands Museum, and decided I wanted to do something more with my life and have more impact upon society and addressing needs. So at a point in my life where I said this is the right thing to do, and we got a great team and a great board, and probably about 2 years ago we got invited to Holliston by the Holliston Housing Trust. Yep. And said, hey, are you interested? And we're going to be putting out an RFP, request for a proposal. Oh, is that how it works? Okay. Yeah. So the trust was first granted the property that we're looking at, that we're now working on. And the trust invited us in. And the way that the RFP is worded, it was conducive for us to participate. Okay. So we do what's called 40B development. It's friendly 40B, in that we work with the town, we work with the trust, and build homes in various communities. So right now we're building 4 in Wayland, and 2 down in Auburn, and 3 in Worcester, and going to Northborough. So we always got real estate and inventory that we're working towards, because it takes a while to permit the site and go through DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. And it, each town's required to have 10% of their inventory as affordable housing. So we meet that need for the town, and therefore we're invited in to help the town reach those goals. So this was a parcel that's on Chamberlain Road that the town has owned and was really set aside, I believe, for sewer management and a sewer project, and never used. So it was an excess inventory. So the trust kind of became aware of that and said, okay, we can do affordable housing over here, and approached us. And we're going to divide a property into 2 different parcels and build 2 single-family homes. Sounds great. Okay, Todd, how'd you get into this? Who twisted your arm, huh?
Well, I always had said if I had some spare time on my hands, what would I like to kind of do to give back to the community? And I always said, well, something like Habitat for Humanity always seemed to resonate. So a friend of mine, Carolyn Reed, was named the executive director for the Habitat chapter in northern Massachusetts. So I reached out to Carolyn and said, I'd really like to get involved in Habitat. And she said, well, you can't really work with me here in our region. You need to work with a local chapter, but my neighbor is Tim Friment. And so Carolyn introduced me to Tim, and we met first back in January. And as Tim reviewed the projects that he had going on in Wayland and Auburn and Worcester, and he talked about the Habitat Restore, which is a store like a Salvation Army store where you can repurpose household goods and furniture and the like, where the proceeds go to Habitat, which is in Natick. And he said, and we also have this project going on in Holliston. And having lived in Holliston for 15 years and having 2 seniors in the high school here, I said, maybe that's the one I should weigh in on. So I joined up really with Tim and with the Habitat team to launch the Holliston project earlier this year.
Okay, so the houses will be built on Chamberlain Street, and there are 2 of them. Now, can you identify where the lots are by any landmarks that people might, that might be familiar to them?
Yeah, if you're familiar with Chamberlain Pines, the
golf course,
swim and tennis
club. That's
club.
right, it's swim, not golf.
It's the lots immediately to the left of the tennis courts.
As you're facing the courts.
As you're facing the tennis courts.
So it's between there and Prentice Street.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, now I understand why you referenced the the sewer project, because that was one of the places. Okay, all right, so there will be 2 houses there, and you said, now are there 2 allowable buildable lots there, or are we using smaller lots by virtue of using 40B?
Yeah, there was a larger parcel, which I believe was 6+ acres.
Okay.
So the trust went ahead and did a build-out plan that including septic design, because there's no sewer line in that area, surprisingly. Right. So they subdivided this 6 acres, part of it in back going to wetlands and keeping that away from us, or away from being developed, and then divided that into 2 separate single-family parcels.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And the design of the parcel, the design of the houses is already chosen, or is that a process? Or?
It's a process. We're working with an architect to redesign the habitat profile that we use. Only that we're trying to get a repetitive type house that works forever. So that's in a process. I'll be going back to the Housing Trust, getting their approval of those plans. It's similar to what we built in Wayland, relative to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath type home.
2-story?
2-story. We don't do garages. So it's a pretty compact house, 2 different elevations, same house on the inside. So we have an architect who's finishing those plans. So I'll be back to the trust, making sure they're comfortable with that and getting the okay. And we did a preliminary design that was part of our brochure that went out, and we've kind of moved into this newer look that's there. So it's a very attractive building. We don't build what's considered low-income type housing.
Right.
Something that you and I would be proud of being a homeowner of. And the families that move in, this is their first home that they own. So that's part of our criteria for it. And so it's going to be a great location for somebody who's moving into town.
Especially if they like turkey, huh?
Yeah, a lot of turkeys over there.
Now, let me ask you, what's the square footage of these houses?
Normally around 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, plus or minus.
Good. And one of the things that I'd like to go back sort of in the history, because as we were talking earlier here, one of the things that came as a surprise to me was that Jimmy Carter didn't found this group.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the founding of Habitat for Humanity in the bigger picture.
Yeah, back 25, almost 28 years ago, an individual by the name of Millard Fuller and his wife Linda, and he had a very successful business, a very successful businessman who decided to do something better for society. And moved down and got involved with another individual in a town called Americus, Georgia, which so happens to be next to where Jimmy Carter lived.
Yep.
So he went to Americus and met up with this other Christian leader and was talking about how do we address this need for shelter that's out there. And their first project was actually overseas and went international and started building over there and recognizing the global need for housing. And then came back to Americas and started assembling this base of individuals who started building houses for each other. So as they came together, let's build shelter for families in need, and that starts here. And then the mission grew and grew and grew and became successful as a model. A lot of grassroots organizations like ours originally 25 years ago started up. And most habitats started that way. It was we came together as friends, said, hey, we need to do this in Holliston, and somehow a chapter was formed. Since then, we've moved on to bigger consolidated areas, just from economies of scale.
Sure.
So our affiliate covers 42 communities, as I said. So since that time, Miller Fuller has moved on, and we're more of a big corporation from the nonprofit side. 80% of our builds are international. Jimmy Carter is a spokesperson who every year does a Carter build to involve the community and really help us spread the word. So he's out there and hammering nails with Rosalind, getting involved in spreading the word. So we're involved throughout the world. We're one of the largest home developers in the world. So we'll go from any international country, and a home there may be a hut. It may be a hut that's 2 rooms and a family's in 1 room and our animals are in the other room for sustainability. So we'll build throughout the world. So here locally, we had 2 chapters. One was Metro West, one was Greater Worcester. We merged those together and been building ever since.
Why did you merge those 2?
It was economies.
Okay.
It's really hard to do fundraising. You're duplicating efforts. You may have a real estate person or a construction person. I have one. So there's a lot of duplication by separate affiliates.
Okay.
So over time, it just kind of makes sense to pull the dollars and resources together instead of having these little branches everywhere.
Okay, Todd, so tell me how this works.
Well, I'm still learning it myself, I guess.
Okay.
In part, the local project committee, which I co-chair with Doug Schmidt, is really about being an extension and an arm of the home office back in Worcester. We're involved with the fundraising associated with this project, as well as the community outreach. The fundraising can take 2 components. One is outright donations from individuals or corporations. But another great source of funding is what's called in-kind donations. So that may be building materials or services like clearing the lot or putting in a septic system. So anything that can go towards contributing towards the build of the homes is what we're really involved with, making sure that we can raise that money, but also raise awareness in the community, both to raise money, but also to make sure that the community is on board and supportive and behind this. And really, when you start talking about that you're working on a project for Habitat and the goal of getting shelter for people in need, it really resonates with people, and people are very, very supportive. So it's a pretty easy ask.
And if I understand correctly, you will be at Celebrate Holliston this Saturday. Will you be there too? Or is
Yes,
it
I
just
will.
the Holliston folks? Okay.
Yeah, we'll be there. And
Tell me about this dollhouse or whatever it is.
Playhouse.
Playhouse, okay,
Yeah.
that is being built. Okay, so playhouse for child, right, as opposed to a dollhouse. Okay,
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're actually building on site a playhouse.
So we are going to be at Celebrate Holliston. We're going to have a presence there. And one of the things that we're going to do is a bigger program inside of Habitat to raise money and awareness, and it is a playhouse build. So we will start and finish construction of a project on the grounds and during the day at Celebrate Holliston. We'll be building and painting a playhouse that we'll dedicate and gift to a family in need that has children that could use a playhouse. So we'll be able to demonstrate from start to finish, building something, putting something up to really show the community how this can go and to get their support and understand that their support goes a long way to building then homes for people out of this project and this program.
So who will actually be there building?
So we're lining up some volunteers, and,
Okay.
and we'll have 2 shifts.
did you
a
just
morning
volunteer is what you said?
No, but I know plenty of people I can get to volunteer.
shift. So
You want electricity, plumbing, or anything else?
this is a little more simplistic than that, but,
Okay.
but yeah, and we'll have volunteers on site building during the day, so that we can show a completed project and get people support.
The
Will
neat
you
thing
accept,
about
one quick
Go ahead.
last question before I forget it.
Yeah.
Will you accept donations that day?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So in
Please.
addition to the playhouse that we're building, another signature event that Habitat uses for fundraising is called Sign a Stud. So
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to ask for a very nominal donation, $1 suggested minimum donation, and you can sign your name on a 2x4 that will go into these homes and be built. And before we seal up the walls, we'll have an open house where people can come and actually see their signature in the home. So it's another way, again, to get participation from
Sure.
the community, to get people feeling like they're bought into this whole project and program and what we're doing here in Holliston. As for the bigger Playhouse project, Tim can probably elaborate on that.
Yeah, the good thing about this program is that it ties also into veterans.
You mean war veterans?
War veterans.
Okay.
And we're a veteran build affiliate, which means that we build houses also for veterans in need.
Separate from Habitat?
No, that's
It's
kind
all
of mixed
saved
in through.
Okay.
Yeah, so when the opportunity arises. But Project Playhouse is a way to help our veterans get a donation to them. And the sweet thing about this is that before they start the painting, the family, kids of the veteran, tell their mom and dad what motif they want. So you want patriots and your sister wants princess, and
Yeah.
the house is built that way.
Okay.
So that at the end of the day, the kids show up and the playhouse is covered, and the veteran family comes on up and gets introduced, and we unveil this playhouse that not only has the motif done to it, but also has a solar panel on top that is donated to us. And the solar panel lights 2 light bulbs up inside for the kids, and the light bulbs come out and become flashlights.
Cute.
But it's a way to raise money in a
Sure.
very tied-in type way. And then the veteran family takes this playhouse that comes apart in 2 pieces, 3 pieces, and gets them put back of a pickup truck, and they take it home and put it in their backyard with the solar panels on top. And it's, the kids' playhouse for as long as they
That's
wish.
nice.
Yeah.
So, so many questions here. So, for this particular event on Saturday, you have a veteran family that's already been selected that will be there.
Yes, we work with Blue Star Mothers,
Okay.
who has a network of veteran
Sure.
families that they're talking to.
Yep.
So they put together the recipient, and then we communicate that motif over to that fundraiser.
Okay. So, I plan on having a camera there at the end of the day on
Excellent.
Saturday. So,
And it's important to note, too, that the Housing Trust was involved in donating, making a donation that made this playhouse build possible on Saturday.
tell me about that.
The Housing Trust voted to commit $2,500 donation so that we could pull this off, and that money, in fact, goes into the money that we're trying to raise for the houses that we're trying to build on Chamberlain Street.
Let's just talk just for a second. The Housing Trust is the Holliston-based. The chair is Brian Clancy, and then there is a committee, I think, of 7, perhaps. Not sure. But at any rate, and these are the folks who are responsible for and oversee the efforts at affordable housing within the town.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that I'm all on the same page. So when it comes to raising money for this, I'm hearing a lot of focus on the money part, and yet I know that the image of Habitat is I'm going to get to have a hammer in my hand and I'm going
Yeah.
to get to hit a nail or 2. Is that still the case, or has the program changed?
No, still the case. We are heavily volunteer-driven. We do 2 trillion volunteers a year, but it's a large amount of volunteers that come to support us. So a typical build is having sponsors involved who have their name on a sign up front. So the major corporations, smaller corporations, can work with Todd's group about donating money. And then we sell what's called build days. So a corporation will make a donation for them to come out and build for a day. And that's normally $2,500 a day, and your corporation can have your employees come on out, and you're doing hammers and nails. Then in addition to that, any other individual that wants to participate can also sign up on our website and come out individually. So we're always engaging the community in this build process. We have supervisors on site, and we have what's called the regulars, who are skilled craftsmen. That kind of teaches the volunteers. So you'll come with your team and be chaperoned and overseen by one of the regulars and go from there. So the wall raising, putting the studs together, the hammer and nails is all volunteer done. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know that the family has a significant role to play in this. They're responsible for 500 hours of sweat equity, as I understand. I'm assuming maybe not too much money, but definitely sweat equity. How does that work?
Let me take that one.
Okay.
We sell our houses to the families, so we don't give the houses away. And a part of our motto is a hand up, not a handout. So it's people that are on a cusp of getting into their first home.
Yep.
So part of that selling the house to them is based upon their income. So the selling price is based upon the income of that family. So the lesser the income, the lower the selling price. So we discount the house heavily. And then as part of that, they pay us over 20 years at a 0% interest. So it's a reduced price, 0% interest. And then the upfront cost is called sweat equity.
Yeah.
So that's where the $500, and they're working alongside of everybody, and they're next to the volunteers, or they're involved within a community, or they're coming to our Restore, which is our retail concept, and working there. And today when I left the office, a new family was there working at a desk. So wherever they can volunteer, but the lesson is that they got sweat equity into it. They're participating. And we select families based upon need, the ability to pay, and the willingness to partner. So that's kind of the criteria. So they need to have sufficient income to cover this reduced mortgage, but still be able to pay. So they're learning about property taxes, and I got to pay utilities and everything else that a homeowner does. So we're assisting them through this, getting into their first home. The sweat equity is a fun piece because they're alongside of everybody else, and they may be making a dish to bring to the site and help everybody engage or serve coffee, whatever. Most of them are building. They want to be in there, so they're taking that sinus stud and putting it in place and doing everything else that every volunteer does.
Okay. Let's talk about the reshare, because I didn't know anything about that.
Restore.
Restore.
Yeah.
Restore. Okay.
So Restore is basically what a Goodwill store is to Goodwill.
Yeah.
So we got one location currently in Worcester where people donate gently used items, home goods.
Clothing?
Not clothing.
Okay.
Everything but clothing and no upholstered furniture.
Okay.
So it's kitchen cabinets, it's appliances, it's remodeling
Got
items.
it.
So you
Got
redo
it.
your kitchen, the old kitchen comes to us.
Got it.
So we get all these donations from both homeowners and people in the business.
Contractors, yeah.
Contractors that are bringing over, and we sell all this back to the public. And that raises money, and out of the Restore in Worcester, we raise them enough money to build a house a year. So it's a self-funding mechanism. We're going to be building our second Restore in Natick that's coming up on 135.
Okay.
And eventually we'll have 3 Restores that help us accelerate the pace. So instead of waiting for fundraising, we got to do our part ourselves, and a Restore is a mechanism for us to raise money. As is Project Playhouse. It's
Right.
also, as is buying build days to do that. So, we're self-funded. Everything's grassroots. We started Holliston at 0.
Right.
There's no magical money that's out there or grants. We go after grants and foundations, but that's where we work with a local group that's called the Local Partnership Committee. And that's where Todd and Doug and Marie and everybody else come together to really work with the community, and because they know who's in town.
Yeah.
And they're the easy access, and they know the community and the needs of the community, and how do you engage the high school, how do you engage the real estate community, how do you engage everybody to be part of this, because it's a community build. It's not a habitat build. This is us coming together to build.
Okay. So how are we doing that, Todd?
Well, we kicked off forming a committee back in June. We started meeting. We kind of used the social media that was available here in Holliston already. So I'm Happy Holliston Facebook page and the Holliston Bulletin Board. We now have about 30 people that are either formally or informally part of our committee.
Okay.
We form subcommittees, one for fundraising, one for in-kind donations, one for community outreach. We have chairs over each of those committees. And, we've started now to get our cadence of communication and collaborating together, and really now just starting, I think, really with Celebrate Holliston. We do have a banner up now over Washington Street. It went up today.
Oh, okay.
Talking
Didn't
about the
notice
fact that Habitat is in Holliston now, and that we'll be at Celebrate Holliston. We've set up a fundraising site on a Kickstarter-like campaign on a site called youcaring.com.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And with that site, all the proceeds go into our project. We just put it up a few weeks ago, and we're over $1,200 raised on that site so far. But it represents an easy way for people, if they want to give money, for them to go and be able to contribute. We're now looking at ways that we can do fundraising. I think we have a commitment already for some part of the land clearing and the foundation work, and maybe even the concrete pour. So we're in the process of solidifying some of those early construction efforts, as well as working with some of the local building vendors. Certainly a lot of the tradespeople we've already had a lot of contact with, and have an entire list of electricians and plumbers and other construction people from around town. very similar to the way the community rallied for the concession stand at the football field.
Yeah.
People really want to get involved in building the project. I think it's a little awkward sometimes when you say, we all want to start swinging the hammers, we all want to start erecting the site and clearing the land and building the site, but we have to make sure that we've got some money committed up front before we can do that. So that's really the focus right now, is the community awareness, the fundraising, to find corporate sponsors, to get individual donations, and at least show the board and the executive committee of Habitat that they're supporting the community for the program so we can break ground.
Okay. So how can the average person, I mean, okay, they can go on YouCaring and contribute money, but so somebody wants to do something, what do they do? I mean, they're going to call you, or they're going to email you, or they're going to text you, or whatever, but what are they going to get to do?
Yeah, I would start out by the fundraising mechanism, because you don't want to start the project unless you got a third of the money in hand.
And how much would that be?
Well, we're looking at $400,000 for the project, $200,000 for each house.
Each house, okay.
Yeah.
Total then.
To this
Okay.
point, the Housing Trust, through Community Preservation Act funds,
Yep.
have already committed $100,000 to that goal.
Okay.
So we got a starting base.
Okay.
So any individual can call, and I would say start with fundraising. Reach out within your network of friends,
Okay.
within your church, your Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever the group is, and decide how you're going to help fundraise within that. So you could be doing a sign-a-stud or sell cookies or whatever, but everybody individually can. Once we get into the ground, then it's a matter of signing up for build days.
Okay.
And hopefully you bring your corporation or your friends with you.
Yep.
It's a lesser price for churches, whatever, to come.
How much is it when you're talking? It was $2,500 for a business, a big business, or
Right.
whatever. So if my church group wanted to do something,
We'll go down to $750. It's
Okay.
whatever you can afford.
Okay.
So we don't stop a group from because of money.
Okay.
But we ask you to help us raise the money.
okay. So then my group would raise the $750 and give it to you, and then that same group of people would be the ones that would be going in to
Exactly.
do the build.
So you block off a day. We got a calendar. We got a volunteer coordinator who does nothing but this. That really puts together and say, okay, this day is reserved for your group coming out. Depending upon the size of the group, we look at 15 being the ideal number.
Okay.
More than that, it's just too unruly on site.
Sure.
This will be pretty unique because we'll have two houses going on simultaneously.
Okay.
So therefore, the efforts can be accelerated to bring more groups to be engaged.
Good
So
point.
it's-
So instead
yeah.
of just needing 15, you'll need 30 on any
Yeah,
given
we
day.
can do 15 and 15
Okay.
to make that happen. So your group, so today you can start saying, how do we raise money to do a build day?
Okay.
You may want to do a playhouse, project playhouse, to generate money to do that. So, okay, how do we do money here that works with doing a playhouse?
So if we did the Project Playhouse kind of thing, then all the $2,500 from that would go, was that the amount? Did I remember
It'll go
that
to
correctly?
Habitat.
It would go to Habitat, and,
Yes.
and then it can be attributed to us or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you as a organization,
Okay.
so we're in that initial phase
Yeah.
where design's being done and things are being finalized, and does, what's a septic plan? So, we'll start out with shovel in the ground, which means foundation and septic. So you kind of get the infrastructure into place before we have volunteers show up. But that initial phase of shovel in the ground means who's out there that's skilled or has that company.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the cement guy in town? Who is the septic guy? Who else can help do that? Who has the bulldozer? Anything like that. So any
I hope you have
business,
all of those because they're all here.
they're all here.
We're
Yeah.
lining those people
Yeah,
up.
because
Yeah.
they're actually among the most willing, and that's when we did a community build for Goodwill Park, when we did the committee and building at the Whatchy Bobby field, they're always there.
Yeah.
And when we did Blair Square, it was like Herb Brockert was out there excavating and doing all that kind of stuff and doing the wall down at it's an endless list of things but they're always willing. They're a great bunch, and many of them are on the fire department too. So that's always a good place to go if you're just hanging around on a Monday night, first and third Monday nights, drop in there.
Yeah. There's always something for everyone to
Yeah.
do. If I say I'm going to do a pizza party
Yeah.
and raise money that way, I'm going to do a walk and raise money that way. So anything that you see out there that's a fundraiser
Yep.
that you can help orchestrate through Todd's group to say, okay, we can take this piece and do it. And then gifts in kind is huge. So that's the businesses that have the lumber, that have the windows, that have the different pieces to it, to say, I can take that piece of it. So it's community funded. This is us coming out. We'll be out asking for grants. We'll be out talking to foundations
Right.
that are, part of it. So
Yep.
you kind of have the office piece. That's the grants, foundations, major ask. We have national partners. That would be Valspar Paint is a national partner, Dow with the
Chemical
insulation and things like that. And various ones, GAF for roofing, Whirlpool for free appliances. So we have some national partners that come to help do this, to put it together, and then the rest is local.
Okay. So where are you starting? I mean, I know you just want to get through Saturday, and then it's like, okay, let's see how all of that goes. Now we've got that idea out there and so forth. How do you reach out to all of these groups? Because they are so disparate, and we do have quite a few different ones.
Well, I think one of the things that we recognize is there's been a lot of projects like this in Holliston done before. So one of the things that Doug and I are trying to do is get smart on, who ran those programs, who was involved in those programs, how do we leverage. We don't want to, go to the same well every time, but let's at least not try and recreate the wheel. There's a lot of people in Holliston, as you noted, that really want to get involved and want to, donate their time, their efforts, their energies, and their talents. We've tapped a bunch of them already, so we've already got a list of craftspeople. We have a list of people that are willing to volunteer to swing hammers. And we're basically got within our committees and subcommittees groups of people that are spearheading efforts to rally inside of the schools and to build programs in the schools. There's groups that are looking at the houses of worship and what they can do to bring to bear for the project. There's group for the fundraising where they're looking at how to do outreach to the local businesses and the larger businesses in the surrounding area. So, for example, somebody on our committee has a personal relationship with an executive at TJX. So that's another way to expand the presence while this is a build in Holliston. I think our bigger vision is, as Tim said, there's some limited resources, but if we can get a structure in place, if we can get a routine in place, that we can probably build a machine here that will help do more projects in Metro West by building up a constituency of people that want to fund and want to partake in these kinds of projects. So while we're starting in Holliston, we're certainly looking to how do we leverage this into the surrounding communities as well and build something a little more lasting.
Can people from other communities volunteer and participate in everything? It's not like you have to be a Hollistonian to do this, right?
No, correct. People come from all over, corporations from all over. Somebody knows the executives at a corporation.
Sure.
Somebody knows who's the leader that I can talk to. So the corporate responsibility, social responsibility, is more than a buzzword within
it's
corporations. Yeah, so they're out there engaged. It's a big win for people to come build together, because everybody's at the same level. We all got on the same T-shirt, and we're all getting dirty. But you can't tell the president from the janitor. We're all there on site. So it's very rewarding that way, and you can really stand back at the end of the day and see what you did, and say, I built that wall, and when the house gets finished, I built that house. So it is about that. So I think that connecting, the networking, is key. That's part of what Todd and his group's doing right now. Who's out there, who's connected to who knows somebody at this corporation, that corporation, and networking is step one.
We have some major businesses in our industrial parks too. We look like we don't have anything, in terms of major industry and stuff. If you drive in, you'll discover that you'll see some names there. Will be like, really, So they're out there too.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you're very happy, satisfied with the way things are going.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, the outpouring of support that we've gotten so far is incredible and wonderful. I think, the fact that I met Tim first in January and here we are in September and we haven't broken ground, there's a level of, and Tim warned me when I started, these projects because of the grassroots nature, because of the self-funded nature, will take longer than what you expect them to take. But I think, as a bit of a type A personality, you kind of say, well, we've started.
can do it.
Yeah.
We've started. Let's get going. Let's
Yeah.
break ground and let's start to demonstrate that we're actually building these homes. So I think it's a realistic level of frustration about just, the anticipation of we really want to get this thing going. So I think the focus has been on how do we build a little boom out of Celebrate Holliston to really create enough awareness to make it a lot easier as we're going than asking people for gifts in kind, for funds, to do fundraising events for people to say, oh, that's right, I heard about the project. Yes, I want to participate in this way. And again, just demonstrating that we've got some momentum of fundraising will let us get that shovel in the ground, will let us start the project, and that will in turn build more momentum to go raise the rest of the funds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so with your experience, we have $100,000. Now we're going to start doing this other fundraising and so forth. Do you think we'll break ground this fall?
Probably spring. It depends what happens. And only that I got limited resources myself. So I got my construction team doing 4 units in Wayland, and we're doing 2 here and 2 there. So
And
it's
these
a
are the
matter
supervisor types people that
Yeah.
you definitely have to have.
Yeah, so I love Todd, but I don't want him to supervise the construction going on yet. So it takes that kind of planning.
Okay,
We
so
got
we're
some
talking spring.
spring to get shovel in the ground, maybe sooner. Depends what the winter's like and how soon we can dig.
So we're all going to be praying that we're not going to get a winter like last
That's
year, right?
right. That's right.
That's the first thing.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we need
so
the
as soon as
weather.
we can get enough funds that we got a comfort area. 'cause
And what
the
is
board,
that? What amount is that?
I'd say probably 250,000.
Okay.
Maybe that kind of number, or 200,000. Yeah, so we're that, so we're not, the Housing Trust gave us a big boost.
Sure.
With the allocation coming from that.
Right, but you need more demonstration than that.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's that $10,000 check, it's that $25,000 donation that's going to make it. So it's really how do you do that, and where are those funds? And then we got some other design things that we got to finish up, and we'll start family selection when we go into the ground. So you got the construction piece, and you got the family selection piece. So once we know that we're confident enough about getting into the ground, we'll go out with our family selection committee, which is really, in this case, one with local preference and one other family. Because these are approved inventory for the town, subsidized housing inventory, we go through DHCD, Department of Housing Community Development, and there's a lottery process. So we go out with application process, which includes information sessions and talking to those, and we kind of broadcast the availability of the house throughout the community. And that's a pretty broad community that we speak to, because somebody from Framingham is going to want to live here as well as somebody from Holliston. So our reach is great, but we have a committee that will go through, and then they'll kind of, based upon the qualifications, so we look at ability to pay, their credit reference, everything else, and then the need as well. With DHCD, these will go names into a lottery that's kind of predefined about what goes into what and what minority levels, and it's kind of dictated by DHCD.
Right.
And then,
Worked there for 7 years. So.
All right, so you know it very well. So that when the lottery happens and we select that family, that's a day of celebration.
Right.
It's a recognition of now we got a house and we got a family that's going to get engaged on site. And we start grooming them with family education. How do you pay a bill, and how do you cut grass, and what about safety and everything else that goes with home ownership? Because you got to remember, not everybody is coming from the same background that you may have come or I may have come. Our individuals are making 25 to 60% of average median income. So if it's 80,000, it's 60% of that. So that's the qualified pool that we look at that have the ability to do that. And selection process happens. We got a committee that takes it back to the board and say, okay, here's the ones that are approved, and here's the ones going in a lottery, and these are the ones that won. But we keep the backup names because
I was going to say, do they go away?
No, we come back to them because stuff happens. People get cold feet, or I won the house, but am I ready for this? Am I ready to go from a rental to landlord's responsibility to now my responsibility? It's a big step.
You guys, I'm even contemplating moving the other way and getting out of home ownership. It's like, oh my God, please, somebody else mow the lawn.
Yeah, so the families that are applying, we have what's called family support as well. So we're teaching them through their various classes that are throughout the community. So SMOC or a CDC is going to have a class on finance and anything else that goes with that. And there's basics like what are property taxes and why am I paying this that people that never did before, or how do I do this going on. And then, it won't happen in this case, but in a lot of other buildings, we got condo associations because they're a duplex. These are two single-family houses, but that's a separate education that we're involved with as well.
Yeah. Is transportation an issue out there? I mean, out in Underwood Street, out in Chamberlain Street, it's kind of, they almost have to have a car.
Could be. If they have children in the high school, I think that's an easy walk. That's within probably a half mile, 3/4 of a mile. For the middle or elementary schools, I think it'd be, I don't know if it's inside of the busing area for those schools or not, but...
And what about mom and dad or whomever, they probably have to have a car.
Yeah, normally they do because they have an income, so they're working somewhere, otherwise they wouldn't qualify.
Yeah.
So they're going to work, so they have the same logistics that any family has, and how do I get my kids to school, and say the house is completed in October, and where are my kids starting school? So you got all those type of things to work out.
Could you just get it finished before
I know. Right. If we had our magic wand, we
if you
would
could just
say,
do that, I think that would be a big help to people, because that must be really intense at that last, you're in school. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so we're facing that now. And, some kids, parents may be excited about the homes, but the kids don't want to move out to...
Yeah, they have friends.
And they got
this
friends.
This is out in the boondocks to many people. I don't mean to say that it's the boondocks, because to me it's hilarious when people come out here and say,
it's all relative.
It is, but that's okay. That's okay. I've gotten used to it.
But this is a dynamite site. It's a nice seclusion, yet you're buffered by the location of how to get to things.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah, no, 2 doors up. I mean, you've got 1 million kids, or you have the entryway to, Brentwood, and you've got a lot of kids in there. So.
Yeah, in fact, the statistics show about people put into the right environment, and it changes in a kid's education and their self-confidence and their ability to interact within society. That, they're going from maybe subsidized housing somewhere or living in a 2-bedroom apartment and they got 3 in each room to having a yard and separate bedrooms and all the above. So it's really a transformation. Is the way we look at it. We're really transforming lives, not just building houses.
And do you track people afterwards? I mean, I'm wondering, you obviously have great success. There's no question that you've had great success, or you wouldn't still be moseying along. But do you maintain data to document, how many homes end up turning over because people decide after a year or 2, this is way too much for me? How many people run into financial issues that force them to do that?
Yeah, we do. And surprisingly, to the good, is that the majority, I'd say over 90%, are in that home for life.
Oh, interesting.
And multi-generations go through. So our family is a partner forever. We're there as a support network. We're there to help them through crisis. So if they lose their jobs and they can't pay the mortgage, can we give them a delay in their payments? Can we give them a sabbatical type payment?
Right.
So we'll help them throughout life. We'll help them answer their questions about, my roof's leaking, what do I do? Okay, you're a homeowner, this is where you got to step up.
Happy homeowning.
Yeah, so we're in contact with all of our families. It's rare that we get somebody that sells for necessity. It's very rare. It's rare that they move out of that house. It's their first, they're so happy to be there, their kids are going to school, somebody gets married and they may move into the house with them, but whatever works, but it's that stability that's so important to them. You and I may change jobs and move around, and therefore our family changes and our household changes, but you see a lot more stability.
Now, generally, speaking of DHCD, there are clauses that require that these deeds, these title, be in perpetuity, that it never reverts to being a market rate unit, and therefore somebody makes a lot of money off the equity that they gain on that property.
Yeah.
Is that the case in these?
Yeah, that's very key. All the houses that we build have a deed rider that's attached to it, even if it's not a DHCD rider, some communities don't require that, like Worcester that has a lot of affordable housing.
Okay.
So the deed rider is a recorded document that follows with the land. We have right of first refusal on all property, and we exercise that.
Do you?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
And then the deed rider says that property needs to be sold to an eligible buyer at the income description at that time.
Yeah.
So that price is then discounted. So nobody's walking away selling it in a year, and
Yeah.
I sold it for 120, and they can, it's worth 500,000.
Scoop it for,
Yeah.
the difference.
So there's legal restrictions and deed restrictions that help that stay in place.
Okay.
If we get back a house, we recycle it, as we call it.
Sure.
We go back in and remodeling, put it in a brand new like shape, and interview more families to come in. And the cycle continues. And that's a good thing about building this inventory, is that it's 2 more houses that are, protected in perpetuity for the
Right.
community. And hopefully we come back and we do more and more. That, doesn't stop at these 2, that Holliston continues to do this.
Can do it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Holliston, back in the 90s, we talked about doing scattered site, which is what this is called, and we just couldn't find the places. But it was at a time when houses here were selling for like $140,000. And those of us who were working at DHCD would sit there and go, oh my God, if we could only figure out how to buy some of these right now, this would be absolutely fabulous. We never did, but this may just be that turning point, so that we still have some homes in Holliston that are very, very modest by today's standards. And it may be that we'll be able to start acquiring some of those. I think you did one, well, at least the trust did one of the Belknap condos. I know that they bought one of those and then fixed it and sold it. And, I'd like to see us do more of that, because that's the way that everybody feels more comfortable.
Yeah.
The old projects, quote unquote, or the single building and that kind of thing. It's just yesterday. It's not the future.
Yeah, Habitat House fits in the community. You can't drive down the street and say that's a Habitat House.
Right.
It blends in. It's the same quality.
Right.
So that's important. And then us getting property may come from the trust. That's a standard one.
Okay.
We get foreclosed property where the bank may be sitting on inventory. We got property from Bank of America and Chase and other banking institutions. So there could be local banks that are sitting on inventory. A lot of towns have property like this that needs to be turned into affordable housing.
Yeah.
So they're sitting on excess property or unnecessary property that they can convert. So there's always those potentials. Somebody passes away and they donate their house, an estate, whatever. So there's multiple channels to increase the inventory.
So once you've been here, it just makes all of that easier, I'm assuming?
It does.
Okay, because the
Yeah, I think
partnership's in
people-
place and...
And people think about it and they say, okay, I don't want to necessarily leave this to my kids. I can leave it to Habitat for building affordable housing, or leave it to the trust. Or I got property that I bought in town, or I'm dividing my property, whatever it may be. So
Right.
I think people just thinking Habitat, and the mission is putting God's love into action, bringing people together to build homes, community, and hope. And we break that down, God's love into action.
On the back of your
It's the
business
mission.
card.
It's mission there.
In great
And-
big graphics, too.
Yeah, the mission, God is our God.
Yep.
Your God may be different, but it's whoever's God. But it's doing the right thing is what it's about.
Yeah.
And bringing people together is what we're doing right now. We're bringing the audience together and you together and everybody else to make a project work. And then we build homes. We don't build houses, we build homes. Because this is something that you're going to be into for the next whatever number of years.
Sure.
We build community because this is a sense of community. And more importantly, we build hope. The hope that I can have my own house, that I can have my kids grow up in this community is key.
Yeah.
So it's a simple mission, but it really strikes home to what we can do together.
Now, do you provide materials? Do you make this easier for Todd in terms of trying to get messages out? You're not
Yeah.
going to make it easy for him at all, are we?
When I interviewed Todd, first time we came together, by the end of the interview, I made him chairman of the local committee. So he didn't know that, but it was quickly
I didn't know
there.
that until the second meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
second meeting I came back. But we have set materials. We have certain kits that we provide. So Todd, we've already been working with our development committee about, I need a tablecloth and I need balloons and I got this for And what about the playhouse? So there's always this interaction going on to make sure he's equipped and educated and the committee's educated. Because there's a lot of questions. It's about, okay, how do I do this? And what are the pieces that are in kind? What does that mean?
Right.
Yeah, so how many windows or what do I ask for? So we kind of share the budget. The budget's broken down into line items. It's there to say, okay, if somebody's interested in donating wood floor, we'll tell them how many square feet we need. So that interpretation, it goes back to a donation of saying that. Or somebody just may say, I'm going to write a check and I'm going to pay for kitchen cabinets. And I'll buy 2 sets of kitchen cabinets and here's a check to do that. However you participate.
So if somebody were to decide to do let's just say a neighborhood activity or event to raise money, they'd contact you, Todd, or somebody on the committee that they might happen to know.
Yep.
Would you have a packet of information that you would provide them on how to do things, or would it just be the sky's the limit, here's a Habitat logo, and go for it? Or?
I guess we're willing to support them the way that they might want to be supported if they've got a great idea and they need some information, they need some guidance, they need some logos. We'll certainly give them the support they need. We're trying to make things as easy as we can. Even in talking to corporate sponsors, for example, I've offered to go with committee members to make these pitches. If they're significant and interested enough, we'll bring Tim into those discussions. There's no real pride of, it needs to be done by, this person or that person. It is about making sure that we enable an ease of people being able to participate. And, if you've got a great idea, let's figure out how to staff that. But, one common thing, no good idea goes unpunished.
Right.
If people bring good ideas, my typical response to them is, okay, how can you do that?
Right.
How can you bring the people to bear? How can you do the planning? I'll support you with materials, with information, but how do you get the people to participate, to both volunteer and to show up at your event? Because we can't do everything in our little committee as well. That's not the goal either. It's really to spread this out amongst the community and get people to participate.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the ideas get screened from just being reasonable, but it can go from a lemonade stand where the kids are going to raise $10 to the triathlon that the athletes in town are going to run that's going to raise $50,000. So it's just a matter of making sure we got the right brand that's there, because our brand is important, so the logos and everything else. And then as an idea, and then how can we assist you? How can we help you execute that?
Are there some activities that you would consider unacceptable? I mean, do you screen it for things that might be an activity that you just don't think is in keeping?
Yeah, if it doesn't tie into the brand or it's kind of questionable, yeah, we're not going to go there.
Okay.
It's too important. I mean,
Right.
our brand is who we are, and we carry the flag together. We all carry the flag, and it's one that we protect.
Okay. And looking up to this weekend, is there stuff that you need on Saturday? What do you want from the community this Saturday?
Well, I know we put the net out for volunteers to do the Playhouse build. We certainly have the booth manned by the committee, so that's covered. We should know later tonight. We're meeting tonight, Tuesday night, to have our weekly meeting with our team, and we'll know just where we are with volunteers for the actual Playhouse build. But we've got a couple church groups that are lining up, youth group members and other parts of religious organizations that want to participate. I don't think we're going to have a problem filling that, but right now I don't have the list completely filled out. So that's right now, and I think, again, yesterday Doug Schmidt and I met with Roberta Weiner and I'm sorry, I forgot.
I'm going to say booth person.
Julie Murphy,
Okay.
who are
Okay.
chairing our fundraising committee. And they have some interesting ideas about how to model after some other events that have been done around town that include some auctions, getting companies to donate gift cards and items where we can do
like a silent auction kind of thing?
Silent and live auction through an event, and probably have it at Town Hall if we can have it there. So we're already, got the juices flowing about ways that we can get this going.
Well, let me tell you something about Roberta Weiner. She was the person who was the publicity director, whatever we called it, for the very first Celebrate Holliston in 1991. And she did a land office job. I mean, she was fabulous at it. So you're in good hands with Roberta, for sure, for sure. Well, guys, have we left anything out that you really wanted to get across?
No, the only other pitch I'll make is for our Restore location in Worcester.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have trucks that are out on the roads. We pick up at houses. So those that are remodeling their kitchen and cleaning out their basement and have the appliances and everything else that they don't know what to do for.
Well, let me
call
ask
us.
you a question.
Yeah.
I have a brand new slop sink that I never installed. Is that something I can
We'll
give
take
away
it.
to you?
We'll take it. If it's something that you think somebody
Still in a
else can
box.
use.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Many houses have them in their basements. I unfortunately don't.
Yeah, no, we
And I don't think I'm going to at this
we get brand new goods, from windows to used goods to you name it. It's I call Restore the Brimfield on steroids. You can walk in and there's something there you're going to want to get. Antiques come through and new items come through, and I bought the wrong windows and I got these old windows that are still brand new, like you said. So there's that, and that's a good way to support Habitat, because everybody has stuff.
Something to get rid of.
To get rid of.
Yeah.
And we take that and keep it out of the trash stream. We turn it into income that goes into building houses.
And where is it located in Worcester?
We're in Gold Star Boulevard, which is a great place to come shopping, right across from the Shaw's and next to W.B. Mason.
Okay.
But it's a great place to come and shop if you're looking to buy that cabinet for your basement and put in another kitchen setup or whatever. We have it. From tables, chairs, windows, doors, paint, anything you need for a home good improvement.
So how do we reach you? How do you get to that store? I mean, is it by phone, email, what?
Yeah, best place is to go to our website.
Okay.
Just type in Habitat Worcester and we'll come up, and Restore has a separate section there. Our contact's there if you want to volunteer and be part of who we are. If you want to be a regular and want to commit to, I need to volunteer and I want to volunteer for life. I retired 3 years ago and I'm now looking to do something.
Yeah.
Come on out and build with us. So we operate our family selection committees, volunteers, local partnership. We got a Restore committee, you name it. We bring people in to get engaged.
All kinds of opportunities all the way around for all of us.
Yes.
Sounds great. Sounds really, really great. And guys, you've been wonderful. Thank you for coming on and
Thank you for the opportunity.
going through this with me. I really didn't know all that I needed to know. So with that said, now we know. Habitat for Humanity is here in Holliston, thank goodness. And Saturday, Celebrate Holliston. And then if you're watching this after Celebrate Holliston, just remember the name Todd Barber. There you go. Or you can contact me or anybody here at the studio and we can get you off to the right direction. So thanks for being with us. Thank you again, gentlemen. And over and out. We'll see you next time. Thanks.